Okay, let's get to the politics situation here in the UK because school strikes in England have been called off. Members of the UK's biggest teaching union have voted to end strikes after accepting the government's offer of a 6.5% rise in their pay. And this ends fears of widespread disruption in the autumn term. Now, members of the four unions, National Education Union and Teachers Union, the National Association of Head Teachers, and the Association of School and College Leaders, they were considering staging coordinated strike action if there was no progress in the pay situation. And since February, union members have held 8 days of industrial action in state schools in England, forcing many schools to close entirely or reduce the number of classes held. But after the government improved its offer, members of all four unions agreed to accept the deal on the table. However, unions have warned that while the 6.5% uplift was a marked improvement on previous offers, it was not enough to correct a decade of real terms pay cuts. The NEU, which is one of the largest education unions in Europe, representing more than 450,000 teachers, lecturers, education support staff, and leaders. Now, according to the Education Secretary, Gillian Keegan, she said that the NEU's decision to accept the pay offer is good news for teachers, parents, and most importantly, it's good news for children. But the Education Secretary further added that the deal brings an end to the disruption faced by parents and young people, and now they can focus on giving children a world-class education. Well, Keegan said that teachers can now tackle high levels of absence, the gap between richer and poorer students, and the time lost as well in education during the pandemic. Well, for more on this particular topic that we've been covering now for seemingly months on end, our correspondent here in the capital, Alex Isaac, is joining us as this is a huge breakthrough.
Absolutely, and it is actually more about that percentage which the independent review suggested that it should offer. It's about the fact that the last offer that was on the table by the government, by the Gillian Keegan, the Education Secretary, said that some of the money that would come out of the budgets of the schools. So schools are really concerned that if they agreed to the percentage rise that we saw previously, that they would have to really consider about what would be important. Would it be the materials in the schools? How would it come across? Where would the education for the students lie? This is a real bonus, obviously, that they're getting this pay rise, that these strikes will be over, but it isn't really going to end here. Across all of the public sectors, most of them have accepted that 6% pay rise that we saw a couple of weeks back. But many people are still incredibly unhappy that they still don't have enough that in line with inflation for the past decade, really. Wages aren't really realistically going up to the same rate as the cost of living is. Bills are still highly expensive, the cost of food, the cost of fuel, nothing else seems to be coming down. So this is a small victory, but when it comes to across the board about people who aren't necessarily in the public sector, but they're also feeling a real push on their wallet to know whether or not, they're not getting a pay rise across all of the sectors. And schools specifically, some of them are closing down. Here in the capital, we are hearing a number of schools are closing down because there aren't enough students going to those schools. The infrastructure is another issue that needs to be concentrated on. It does feel that this is one small step, but sadly there are many steps to go to ensuring that there are enough public sectors that are getting the right pay and so they're able to do the basic job that they have applied for.
And Alex, you've been covering strikes in the country for months on end now, and there's various sectors that are on strike, and namely the NHS is a big issue here in the country because we've had consultants, junior doctors, we've had nurses as well. It's just a strike situation, and we called it the winter of discontent, and that's gone right through to the summer. Do you think that this deal that the teachers have managed to strike will embolden other areas of the country and the economy to step forward and strike?
there's a real interest with the unions to be pushing forward the strikes. I think with the NHS workers, a lot of those public sector's workers, you did accept that 6%. So it's the unions like the BMA, the British Medical Association, with senior doctors, junior doctors and consultants. That's a real problem for the NHS because when they're going on strike and they want way above that 6% barrier, they want nearly double figures on a pay rise. And of course we have the rails as well, which that seems to be ongoing. Not long ago there was meant to be a tube strike, but that also got put to bed. But it doesn't mean that that's not going to happen in the future. A lot of the rail unions are very adamant that they're going to keep going until they get what they want, and that isn't just about pay. It's not always coming down to money. It's about how they're working. They don't want to do zero contract hours. They don't want to work above and beyond their times. They don't want to have automated driving vehicles. All of these things are coming under the unions. So it isn't just about pay. It's a whole bigger deal than that, and that's why people will continue to strike.
Right, Alex, thank you so very much indeed for covering that for us. So as we know, as it stands on the strike front, we've got teachers accepting that pay rise. We also had, as you pointed out there, we had most eligible dentist doctors receiving that 6% pay rise, and for junior doctors it will be increased by an average of 8.8%. Alex Isaac, thank you so very much indeed covering everything political and economic here in the UK for us.